Great. Welcome back to Senate Education. I am testimony here from Dr. Matt Forrest, Director of Student Services at St. Johnsbury Academy, on S204 and 303. And I also believe we have
Yeah, the ones we sent out.
Dr. Ms. Mount. Which one should you need?
So 220, 191.
Do you want all of them?
Just a bill. We sent down a bill, we refer the bill to you all, and I'm supposed to bring it back.
Oh, we have a brand new person.
That's quite all right.
Yeah, so you have 2 hours.
Sorry,
Affiliate.
You're doing
Yeah.
great. But when we refer a bill down, we're supposed to
Yes.
see it. If I don't bring it up, then I have to yell at myself.
So,
That is very embarrassing to watch.
so would you reach out to our, the boss and have her come in ASAP? Thanks. We'll keep going and.
Thank you. May have to start it, but I will reach out to her.
Dr. Forrest, floor is yours.
My name is Dr. Matt Forrest. I'm the Director of Student Services at St. Johnsbury Academy. I've been working in education for 26 years now, 21 years in public schools. I was started off as guidance counselor, vice principal, and then 5 years as a Vermont superintendent. And I'm licensed at 4 licenses both in Vermont and in New Hampshire. And then on a personal note, I think I might have said this last year too, but I do have dyslexia. I'm the father of 2 dyslexic daughters, so that this is a piece that's pretty passionate for me. And then seeing the challenges that we're seeing with kids coming in from the 13 districts that we serve is concerning. So I'm so pleased that you're tackling this issue. And I really appreciate this opportunity to speak to you again.
Thank you. And it's good to see you again. And you came in last year. I don't remember the topic, but
Yeah.
Good to see you again. And also our guest who's online, Ms. Mount. You're the head of school at Hilltop Montessori.
Correct.
Right. Well, we're going to start with Dr. Forrest and get his feedback on 204 and 303, and then we'll have you testify. Dr. Forrest.
Yeah, so last year I came in and spoke to you about the MTSS discussion, and we've implemented an MTSS model. What we're seeing right now coincides with the data that the state provided, that 50% of students are falling below proficiencies in ELA. So that data coincides with the information we're getting from the sending districts. So we recognize that there's a significant move that needs to be addressed. And what we've done to try to address that at the academy is we hired a full-time reading and writing specialist as an orthopedic instructor. We now, in the last 2 years, we've hired a special education evaluator. So now we provide special ed evaluations to any student that wants it at no cost to families. And through that process, we've identified within these 2 years, 43 students that were not identified coming up to the system who did qualify and have a learning challenge that we now are providing services for. So we've got that system in place to try to catch it. We've trained the entire special services department in the Gillingham method with 3 level 1 instructors, because what we were seeing is the inconsistency of service delivery even within our own staff, because not everybody was approaching it the same way. And we've seen that when we talk to local LEAs, that the consistency over time is an issue. So they're not getting a consistent structured approach. So we're providing that now at our school. We've also offered 3 regional or Gillingham trainings open to public school teachers. So right now we've 15 public school teachers participate in those trainings that we host at the academy. So we really want to throw our support behind S204 and S303. We do feel that we need to strengthen the participation of approved independent schools in addressing this literacy crisis. And we've been working with the Independent School Association, and we have some proposed language that we really like you to consider. There's 3 main pieces of that. One is to make sure that we're doing our part and with the data that I just recommended, that I shared with you, about 50% of students not meeting the efficiency levels in ELA. It would be negligent not to have other literacy plan in place to address that. And we do feel that the literacy plan should be data driven based on the needs of the students that we're seeing coming into the school. We also support requiring unlicensed teachers to have evidence-based professional development, and then we would hope for some flexibility with how we provide that. For example, Gordon Gillingham training is great for the special services department, but it wouldn't be appropriate at a school-wide training because high school teachers aren't going to be teaching students how to read. They're going to be providing access to that material so that they can move forward. For the special services teacher who will be teaching reading. So some flexibility with how we provide that and making sure teachers are reading this is something that they can implement immediately into their practice. That's really kind of all I got that for just so sorry. Just really hope you consider the language and that we definitely recognize the concerns coming forward and feel that we need to jump on board and do whatever we can.
So I'm a little, so appreciate this. You support the bills, but you're looking for a language change.
Yes,
And that is on the back of your testimony?
yes, it is.
Okay, can you take us through that or what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think we may have removed this language.
Oh.
No, we did, okay, no.
Yeah, so it really kind of, the main pieces, just to summarize it, would be the data-driven literacy plan to make sure that we have a plan in place to address student needs. I believe there was a piece in there that looked for like a K-12 kind of approach. That would be very hard for us to do with there's 13 districts and having some continuity between those. I think it's very appropriate for us to use the data that we have coming in from the sending schools, create an action plan to address it, progress monitor those plans to ensure that it's working, and to keep moving forward with that. And then the requirement for unlicensed teachers to have evidence-based professional development in teaching literacy or awareness there. And again, that's just really asking for some flexibility to how we are able to deliver that.
So you're 9 through 12?
Yes.
And you're seeing, tell us a little bit, if you would, about some of so you're seeing some students arriving ready to go, some remediation. Tell us a little bit about
Well,
the landscape.
Yeah, so we are seeing students come in, and we've had this happen on more than one occasion that are at a third or fourth grade reading level and haven't gotten services. And then when we look at like an EST plan that they've had in place,
Yeah.
they're getting 15 minutes of an intervention for a kid that's significantly below proficient in reading. So that's a concern. And then having to address that as a ninth grader is so much harder than addressing it in those elementary years. Then we also run into some issues so we now evaluate students. And our turnaround time is 2 to 3 weeks from the time we test, the time we have the evaluations and then meet with the parent and then offer services. Some districts welcome that data and others reject it and want to do their own testing. And when that happens, it's taken 90 days to get the evaluation process done. So we've decided to provide the services with the parental's permission, regardless of if the district supported it or not. So I feel like right now we're starting to build a really good system to catch things. We also progress monitor every 2 to 3 weeks with any student that's on an IEP to make sure the trajectory is where it should be. If it flat lines or regresses, we need to put a plan in place to address it. But I think what we're seeing, again, it's the inconsistency with service delivery, right? There's, and I think student turnover somewhat from staff. Like they may have an instructor that was there, then all of a sudden they're gone.
Yeah.
Or managing caseloads that I think are probably too heavy. But what I shared with a 15-minute reading intervention, you're not going to accomplish anything in a 15-minute reading intervention for a kid that's significantly below. So we require a minimum of 30 right? And a 30-minute intervention requires a 45-minute chunk of times because you're adding in transition time. So I don't know what happens within a 15-minute block. So I think it's those needs coming up.
Thank you.
Question for you, thanks for testifying. We changed the date today for teachers to be, to have the instruction to July 1st, 2027. Are you okay with that instead of January 1st?
I think
I think that Laura Pelosi represents St. Johnsbury Academy. I mean, I think that I haven't seen the latest draft. I think one of the issues that we were trying to capture and talking with Matt and his team was the need for thinking about all the independent schools. Developing a literacy plan would be a new activity, and then wanting to make sure they had adequate time to do that professional development. So I don't,
You're, I think Sarah was just giving extra time.
is it extra time? You said
Extra.
July, not
Yeah,
January.
yeah.
Yeah.
I identified the same issue.
Okay.
So that's great.
Yeah.
You're okay with that.
Inner weeks.
Like, to the point that Laura brought up, so is it assumed that the independent schools would use the same modules? Or
We took the module
PD modules.
requirement out. We took the module requirement out.
for the age group? Because of the age group?
No, we just, we removed it
Yes.
from 303.
Yeah,
They can still be used.
this should be used.
Yeah.
That's what we were hoping.
Yeah, but we have some flexibility, yeah. People are gonna go
And as-
all different ways, and we don't want somebody who's working toward a master's degree in education to do this if they're, take a course that they could put toward their
And that's
MS or whatever.
another big issue that we've seen is that,
And we're not sure the modules are, again,
yeah,
all sorts of things related to, yeah.
so to catch up,
Yes,
so all the literacy modules are gone from the bill?
No.
Okay, so,
it's just,
so
it's just an
independent school,
option, yeah.
it's an option.
Yeah.
So an independent, a public school, kindergarten, grade 1, the modules are optional? Okay,
What's
so,
not optional, you have to do something.
okay, I got it.
Modules or something.
So here's my
yeah,
question.
okay.
Is an independent school, would they have access if they're grade K through 3 or do they have access to the modules?
Absolutely,
Okay, that's,
absolutely.
thank you.
Yes. Please.
when you brought up the master's degrees, that I spoke to this last year too, but we do see that particularly within the special services realm, teachers coming out of a bachelor's level or even a master's level program don't have the skills to teach literacy. So they have to either get training outside of their program. And that's where we want us flexibility. So like Orton Gillingham, the 3,
Completely.
yeah, they have
Everything works
outside of
best,
the program. Yeah.
OG is a great program.
Yes.
I believe there's a school that's just an OG school. Is it possible in Wyndham County? OG, or in Gillingham? Yeah, sure, let's go back
It's
to.
the number one method to work with.
Yeah, yeah. Anyhow. Any other question? Concerns about the language? I think we have another witness, please go ahead.
It would be helpful for me, and if this may not be a question for you, it may be for Ledge Council, where this language would go in the bill. And I don't
We'll
know
work
if we
with
want
Ledge
to do that
Council.
now.
Yeah.
Don't move, Dr. Forrest. We're gonna hear from our next witness and then we can look more at greater detail as to where it goes.
Good
Well-
afternoon.
Hi,
Hello, I'm Tamar Mount. I'm the head of school at Hilltop Montessori School in Brattleboro. And I've been an educator for 20 years, including 11 years as head of school here at Hilltop. And I'm here today both in that capacity and also on behalf of the Vermont Independent Schools Association. I serve on Visa's executive committee and as the treasurer of the organization. And Visa represents the interests of about 40 approved independent schools that are committed to providing high-quality educational opportunities to meet the diverse needs of students across Vermont. And we have a really diverse membership of schools, including the historic town academies, an international baccalaureate school, Montessori schools like my own, experiential learning programs, boarding schools, ski academies, and also the highly specialized therapeutic schools that serve students with complex disabilities. And while Visa member schools each offer educational programs that are uniquely adapted to the students they serve, all Visa member schools share the same core values of offering academic excellence with a commitment to promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging within our schools. And all of our member schools have practices, pedagogies, and curricula that are culturally responsive, anti-racist, and affirming of individual identities. And we would hope that they also all have really good literacy programs, which is why we're supporting this language around professional development and requiring the programs to be in place. And as an educator working with children in the younger grades, I certainly see the importance of early intervention. And it's a responsibility that we take really seriously and have been working to improve our fidelity around at our school. And to give you a little background around what we have been doing with literacy intervention and at my school as an example, we have 120 students. We start at 18 months and go through middle school. So I like to say it's from toilet learning through sex ed. And we serve families from more than 15 towns in southern Vermont and beyond. And all of the students receive Tier 1 literacy instruction. And then those that need more receive Tier 2 instruction with that extra dose given in smaller groups from our learning specialist team. And we have a system in place for our learning specialists to do assessments for all children's literacy skills from kindergarten through 8th grade 3 times a year. And they use the same testing procedures and systems that our local supervisory union uses, so that that's always very familiar to the district when we need to have them involved. And we find that about 1/3 of our students benefit from additional direct instruction at some point in their learning path. And we work to identify those needs as early as possible, knowing that the early intervention is critical and can provide that needed boost that some students need to be on track. Most students respond really well to intervention and don't need those extra services for more than a year or two. But we find that of those 30 or so students who need that Tier 2 support, a few will not progress as expected in that time. And we look to the local supervisory union and the child find process, or some families seek a private assessment to provide a more thorough assessment to see if there's any additional information that could help us better understand the student's learning style and needs. And in most cases, this confirms that we're right on track. Sometimes it provides some additional information to allow us to better meet the individual needs of the child. And in implementing this literacy program, we provide professional development to all of our teachers and have had a specific focus on literacy training and conferences in recent years. For example, just this past year, we sent a group of teachers to a 3-day Plain Talk for Literacy and Learning conference that was held in New Orleans and focused specifically on the science of reading and how to best be doing phonics and reading support for children learning how to read. We've had 4 teachers complete a letters training program, which is language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling. And I've included an attachment that details more examples. Those are just 2 highlights. So we've really been able to respond proactively to the increasing literacy challenges that we in all schools are seeing with children. And I know from my independent school colleagues that our school is not alone. The independent schools and public schools are all seeing this. And we've really been focusing on extra decoding instruction or whatever specific skill is lagging for a child. And we're able to do that within just a few weeks of the start of school. And then later in the year, we can be reevaluating and seeing if the student is responding to instruction. So we really support this committee's efforts to improve literacy instruction in all of the schools, public and independent. And as we have seen the same challenges in independent schools that the public schools are seeing with students, we welcome the opportunity to be a part of the solution to improve literacy screening, intervention, and instruction. And we fully support the adoption of grade level appropriate literacy plans and professional development for Vermont's independent schools. And we recommend that the requirements provide sufficient flexibility, as you've just talked about, in terms of making the module one of the possible options, to reflect the diversity of the different environments and the grade level serves and the qualification of our educators. So we certainly support the language that requires schools to have a plan and to do professional development needed for all of the teachers doing literacy instruction.
Ms. Mount, what grades is your school?
We start with the toddlers and go all the way through 8th grade. So learning how to read is critical.
Questions for Ms. Mount, please, Senator.
Well, it's for anyone who wants to answer it. I'm not 100% sure you've seen some new language around the plan. So I'll read it. It says each local school district, and it's not new, it's new old. We brought back old language. So yeah, it's a little confusing, but it says each local school district and approved independent school shall engage local stakeholders to discuss the importance of reading and solicit suggestions for improving literacy and plans to increase reading proficiency. So it's pretty broad and flexible. Did you still want to go with, because yours actually seems,
It's more stringent.
yeah,
Dr. Forrest?
Well, I think what we were talking about is who are the stakeholders for us, like there's 13 districts, and how are you gonna collaborate with all those parties? I remember as a superintendent, when we just had 4 schools, and to try to get those people, on board, when it was one school, like Barnet, working with one community to get it together, that was a lot easier, but when we started merging through Act 46, and you had to try to streamline things, it became extremely complicated. So there's some pause of just who those stakeholders are and how big of a group you'd be pulling in.
can local stakeholders be defined by the school? I'm looking at my council for that. Is that a definition in statute? No. Okay. So. Seems like you could define it, maybe.
And
Well, I think you,
I think if there's flexibility around what that means, I think it's one, and I think I'm just kind of reflecting a little bit on as being a superintendent. I really hope that the plans are data driven, right? You've got to, if we're looking at what's coming in, we're putting a plan together, and I think informing the stakeholders or parents of why we're doing something is really important. I just worry about sometimes when it's too big of a group and you have a very targeted goal that we need to address. Having the right people at the table is crucial to get something done.
Yeah, yesterday we heard from Gwen Carmoli, who's the chair of the Literacy Council, and she gave us examples of who might be in that group of stakeholders, but it didn't seem like it was a closed, group of people. It was flexible, was what I understood. It could involve business owners, it could involve folks from the New American community, it could involve special educator, it seemed like it was a fairly flexible group of people, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's what the expectations are, I guess is what we were concerned.
Right.
and again, Laura Pelosi again, I think as we talked about that language yesterday, when we saw that, it really was around the fact that it's for a school like St. Johnsbury Academy, it's not always the case, but 13 districts, and how do you actually sort of
Right.
do that? And I think in chatting with Dr. Force and his team, it was a real desire to have a school-based plan that was data-driven.
Is this language, the St. James redundant at all based on the new draft of S204?
That's St. James Office of Legislative Counsel, and I will just preface this by saying I have another meeting I need to get to at
Yeah.
5. I think this deserves a larger discussion than we have time for right now, because part of this is creating a new requirement for approved independent schools, period. And that is the grade level appropriate school literacy plan. That's a new requirement that is not in either bill.
Mhm.
And we would need to talk about where to put that.
Okay.
And then the professional I'm unclear as to whether the goal here is to keep the requirements in S303 and have anything in this proposed language just apply to unlicensed teachers.
Recognizing that 303, you have requirements for licensed teachers. We weren't trying to disrupt that. We were simply trying to say that all teachers, including the unlicensed teachers, would have.
Jen, I think we could, with that understanding and understanding that this would apply to unlicensed teachers, I think I can find a home for the professional development piece easily in our new S204. But the piece about the independent schools developing the local literacy plan certainly could fit into those bills. But where it fits in Title 16, I think does deserve some discussion.
Was that your intention to add it to statute? Yeah.
So let's, if you would bring us back, include as much as you possibly can into 204. And we'll have a look at the new draft of 204 tomorrow. So in other words, if you're not comfortable about the requiring independent schools in terms of what section, et cetera, you know, all that, you can hold out as a decision point, but anything that you feel like you can sweep in.
Oh, I feel very comfortable making a recommendation, but we should talk about what that means. Yeah.
I'd love to see it just in a bill highlighted and we can potentially take that.
And we're happy to continue working on the language,
Right.
certainly with something.
Because we've got to wrap this up. Okay, can we stop then for today? Are we okay, Senator Hewitt, in terms of seeing a new draft of S204 tomorrow?
Sure.
Does it feel okay, or do you have outstanding?
Yes, I mean, if we are time bound and worried about time, I mean, I might suggest what we're gonna do with another bill, which is actually 303, I think, or 204, send it.
303 doesn't exist anymore. It's in 204.
Right.
So let's just make sure.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, 204, the
Yeah.
new and improved double bill. But there's some language that we were gonna send to the House and say, could you please add this when it comes over there? I'm just saying, if we're out of time, we can always, or do a floor amendment.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Or,
We can look at the whole thing tomorrow, and in the end, we can do exactly what you just mentioned.
okay,
Yeah, we're not gonna vote on this anyhow, too. Gotta look at it.
right on.
And also, in this, and she wants to have a couple more days on first.
What page is it?
9 through 12.
Okay, I think we've all reached our maximum in terms of capabilities being.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thanks for.
And Ms. Mount, thank you. Very, very helpful. I guess you have Senator Hashim here. You're in Brattleboro,
again.
Yep, good to see you.
and we'll keep working on this. We'll look at a new draft tomorrow.
Thank you.